Hi there, I'm B. I'm back with a new VR tutorial with Unreal 4. As you can see, today I have a classic shuffling game. I'm sure you know about this game. We've got 3 cups and a hidden orange ball. And when the shuffling finishes, we have to guess where the ball went. Very fun and perfect for VR. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do it, it helps a lot. You can also support me on Patreon and get the complete project files. Let's have some fun. This VR example only has 2 elements. A game controller which controls all the game logic. This means the UI, the rounds, when to shuffle in each cup, how many cups to spawn, all of that kind of game logic. And the other element that we have is the cup, which is a basic pickup from my VR template. This whole example is just an extension of another project that I already explained in a previous tutorial. I'll link somewhere how to get access to that project as well. Let's start with the game controller blueprint. This blueprint extends from the shuffling game controller, which is an actor, and it contains a root and a game UI. This is just a widget component. You just need to add the component and select the widget. And important to select the type of widget that you want to use. In this case is this widget blueprint in game, which is that one. This widget blueprint is very simple. It basically contains 3 pictures, which I use to change the color for each round, and this text, and all of that is being handled by the game controller blueprint in the event graph. Important, I have a reference to that widget blueprint stored here because I'm gonna use it later on. And it's basically used in the gameplay. I get that reference, like that. I get the user widget, and I cast to that widget blueprint in game to have all the properties, all the public properties that I want to change on the widget blueprint. Let's move on now to one of the cups. This cup extends from a pickup and it has a root, a base, an interactive collider for interactions, and a static mesh to represent the cup. Let's move on now to the game controller code. The game logic of this game is handled by status. For that I'm using an enum with different states. I'm gonna go quickly through the elements that are new for this project, as this project is based on that previous tutorial. For this game controller, I'm spawning that orange ball. I have 2 blueprint implementable events, which are being received on the blueprint based on this class. The first event is on round completed, and the next one is on update text. I use these 2 events to update the UI. Next thing we have is the current state, a variable to represent the current state, and I have a current delta time and a time to wait between states. And finally, I have this method on motion controller pickup with a reference of the cup pickup, which is being called on the cup pickup class when the motion controller pickups one of the cups. On the begin play of this class, I am spawning the 3 cups that you see on the game. So I basically spawn them and place them in a row. This is important. This is an event delegate that I received when the shuffling of 2 elements has been completed. As I explained in my previous video, every time a shuffling is happening is just with 2 elements, no more than that. Next thing is to spawn the orange ball in a specific cap. For that, I select a random cap between the three of them. I spawn the ball, and finally I place the ball underneath that cap. Next, we have to keep track of the number of swaps for this round, and that is determined by an editor variable, which is this one, total number of swaps. You can change that on the game controller blueprint. After that, we set this round text to represent on that widget UI blueprint. And next, we call this on update text with that new text, which should represent the number of rounds, to represent the current round. And finally is to set the first state for this game controller, and in this case, we're going to show the cap animation. Let's go to the blueprint to show you how this on update text works. The blueprint game controller is right there, and on the event graph, we have event on update text. You just simply need to right click and type the name of the event. Update text. Okay. Next is to update that text on the widget blueprint. And for that, I need to use the widget blueprint reference that I set on the begin play. So we just need to get, and then get the round text, which is a public variable declared on the widget blueprint. And finally, just set that text. So that's the widget blueprint, and that's variable and with a name round text. Let's go back now to the game logic code. The tick function uses a switch to handle its status or its state. We use this switch for the current state, so this happens every frame. Right after the begin play ends, the first state that we have to check is the show cap anim. This state only happens every time a round starts. I like to use this way of handling these type of things with the states on a game controller. So I usually go for the same kind of logic. I use this float to keep track of the time, and I use this time that I change on every state. So on all of those states, I follow the same rule. I update this time with the delta time, and when that time reaches the time, I'll go to a different state. On this show cap anim, what happens is we place the spawn ball on the location of the random cap selected every round. That's gonna be the cap that is holding that orange ball. And also we show the animation of the cap going up and down, and for that I have this blueprint implementable event declared on the cap pickup. This event will be received by the blueprint of the cap pickup. That's the blueprint implementable event. And for that cap animation going up and down, I'm using an timeline animation on the blueprint. That's the cap, blueprint, that's the event. Again, right click and find the event. That one. I'm using this timeline to animate the movement. And basically I have this cap parent, and I just set the relative location. The timeline looks like this. It has a couple of keyframes, and that's the set location. The next state that happens after this show cap anim is a way to finish cap anim. This is basically a state for that animation to finish. Again, I wait for that current delta time to finish, to reach this time, and I change the state of the status to none, so nothing will happen on the tick next time. On this state, I hide the spawn ball because I don't want to show that ball while the shuffling is happening. And this comes from the previous project, and this is when I select the two elements to be shuffled every time. Every time two elements finish in the animation of the move, they will call this on swap item complete. I have this int to keep track of the elements that are being swapped, and when those elements are 0, then is when I can select two new elements to be swapped. They are being selected randomly with this item index list. That was explained on that project as well. I also keep track of the swap in the number of swaps happening on this round. If there is still swaps happening, I select two new swaps. Otherwise, that this round is being completed. When the round has been completed, I enable all the pickups. So the motion controller can pick up one of the cups, and I change to this wait for player to select. This is the moment when the player can take one of the cups to guess where the ball went. This game state is not being dragged on the tick because we don't need to. That event happens on this function on motion controller pickup. This function is being called by the cup pickup. I'm gonna go back to the begin play. As soon as I instantiate one of the pickups, I initialize that pickup and I send a reference to this game controller. That's initialized with the reference to the game controller, which I keep right here. And the initialize doesn't have anything special, just keep the reference. I disable the pickup because I don't want the motion controller to detect any kind of pickup, and I don't want to touch the cups, the game controller, and I disable the physics of this pickup. For that state, the game is waiting for the player to select one of the cups. I'm overriding this pickup implementation, which is a pickup that comes from the pickup base class. And all I'm doing is call the pickup implementation of the base, so I will lose any kind of logic related of the pickups of objects, and call this motion controller pickup with the reference of this pickup or this cup. Then the game controller will receive this function and it will create the logic for the game to complete. So this is only going to happen in this state. That's important, so we avoid any kind of errors. We keep track of this pickup. We set the current state to none, and we check if the cup was selected, the correct one selected or not. So I just go through all of the elements in the list, and with this reference, which is one of the cups, if they are the same, the player selected the correct one. I also disable all the pickups in this state because I don't want to pick up any other cups. When that happens, I send this event on round complete to update the UI with the result of the round and the number of round updated. After that, we add 1 to the current rounds, and this logic will determine if we want to start a new round or not. So we can have prepare for new round or complete the game. Prepare for new round logic is only select 2 new elements, update the text on the UI, and select a new random cup, and again set the current state to show cap anim, so we can show that animation again. And remember that's the first thing happens on each new round. So it's everything again. I also have this sanity check, which is to drop the element on the cap that we are holding with one of the controllers. So I call this drop implementation to put the cap on the place again and disable this pickup. We need to reset some of the elements, for example, current swaps in round. This is the number of swaps that's happening on each round. We need to select again the cap that is going to hold the ball, and keep track of the selected random cap to detect if the controller has taken the correct cap or not. Finally, complete game is very simple. I do the same. I call the drop implementation to make sure that the cap goes to the table again. I disable all the pickups just in case, and I update the text again to the text on the UI to show that game over. The game is completed. And I change the current state to none. So that will be the end of the game, and we need to restart everything again to test. That's all for the game controller. Just a couple of things for the cap pickup. As I said, this code comes from that previous project, so nothing in this class is new apart from a couple of things. One thing is I changed the cap from the previous project, and in this case it extends from the pickup, so I can use it on VR. The other thing I have is these two blueprint implementable events. I explained already this one, and this one is just to play a sound every time the movement of the cap starts, nothing else. The event is being called every time the game controller calls this function to move this cap. So it's right there after the calculations for the Bezier control point. And remember, just to remind, the movement happens on the tick. I use the calculate Bezier curve to calculate its new location, and this is not new. Then we have the calculate Bezier curve point to calculate the points, and nothing else. Let me show you real quick the event on the cap. That is basically this event that plays this sound, nothing else. And if we go back to the game controller, we can see what I did for the event on round completed, and I'm sending the result and the round number for the text. So what I do is I receive true or false, depends on the result of that round. I play a good sound or a bad sound, depends on the result. And I use these switch to change the color of the cat on the UI. So, okay, if the result is true, I go through all of the pictures. These pictures are public variables on the widget blueprint. A3 is 3 ones. So I just need to get the reference and change the picture. For that, I'm using a new cat face, which is green. And when the result is incorrect, I do the same. I change the picture of the current round. I'm using this switch to select the round to detect which round is happening. So each cat represents one of the rounds, and I'm going to replace the picture on that particular cat for both cases, when the result is correct and when the result is incorrect. And I'm receiving that round number right there. So that's the first one, that's the second cat, and that's the third cat. Those are the rounds. So there. And the same happens when the result is incorrect. Have the same switch, but in this case, I'm selecting this image, that one. And that's all for this minigame. So let's play this on the simulation. We can see the elements being spawned, and after a couple of seconds we can see the animation, the sound of the swapping, and in this state the game is waiting for the player to select one of them. And obviously I cannot do this in simulation because I need the headset. And that's the end of the tutorial. Thanks for watching. Please share, subscribe, like, and all of that. Support me in Patreon, and I'll see you next time for another video. Bye!